Do you have a favorite AI platform that you like to use?
I recently started paying for Perplexity.
Okay.
I had a spreadsheet where I needed to do something with 2 columns out of like 50.
Yeah.
And so I put it in and said, please go find these 2 columns and remove everything else.
I love that you say please still. I say please too. I'm just saying. I say please all the time too. Let's be polite even to the tech.
Right.
Let's talk tails. If you are a small business owner looking for a tech ally, look no further than to my guest today, a visionary powerhouse who transforms technological challenges and frustrations into incredible opportunities for growth, all while bringing unparalleled support, insightful strategies, and a genuine passion for collaboration that empowers others to reach their fullest potential in both business and life. It's Karin Crawford. How are you doing today?
I am great. I'm so glad to be with you.
I'm so glad to have you here. You know, the tale of us first connecting was when you actually worked so much in a tech space.
Right.
You were the florist at our wedding.
Yes.
And so tell me the tale of the transition. What went from botany to technology?
Right, I know. Florist to tech. That's, most people are like, whoa.
Most people don't have that career arch.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a couple pieces to that story. One, the very simple line is I pivoted out of my floral business due to health issues after the COVID vaccine that were pretty debilitating. And I just couldn't continue. And unfortunately, hadn't built the business to run without me, so pivoted out. And in my last 4 years of the business, TCO Technology had actually helped me with my tech solution, my tech challenges. And it was so delightful that I was sending them referrals. So when I finally reached out to my network and said, okay, I want something new to do, who do you know? The leader of the company reached back out and said, you've been sending referrals. Maybe we should talk, and explained. The other piece of it is that my father was a landscape architect and started a botanic garden. So that made sense for the botanical side. He was also an early tech adopter. So he brought AutoCAD to the landscape architecture department at WVU really early on, and he would bring home the newest, latest, greatest technology. So I was using first the word processor with the 2 lines that you could go back to, and then he had a computer in the home pretty well. So even as a florist, I was a heavier tech user, and I really enjoyed the resources that TCO brought to me. And so and then I realized, really, the role that I'm in is a matchmaker. And I've always, in my networking days throughout being a florist, was always known as, hey, you're a great networker. You connect people. So now I'm connecting people with resources. So that piece of me stayed consistent, even though it's a different industry.
That's very interesting. And, for those who might have heard, you mentioned WVU, so that's West Virginia University. So tell me the tale that got you all the way to the West Coast, where we're here right now in Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah. So I moved in the early 90s to Los Angeles to join a nonprofit that had their national office there. And a year and a half after moving their office to Los Angeles, they moved the office to Mesa. So I came to Mesa to do that and was with them for about 10 years, burned out, and took a couple of years off, and then started the floral business after that. And it was not too far away from here.
Yeah, very interesting. Because I'm always curious, what gets people to move to a totally different state.
Right.
There's always a big reason or story. It's never a whim of I'm just going to pick up my entire life and move to a different state.
Yes. And it was interesting because moving to Los Angeles from West Virginia was a huge culture shock. And moving to Mesa, there's a little more Midwest connection here. A lot of people from Wisconsin and the upper Midwest. So the values felt a little better because my parents are both from Wisconsin. And so I made that connection. So that was kind of nice that we came here versus going to somewhere else in the country.
That is very true. It's amazing. I'm more amazed here in Arizona when I meet someone from Arizona. You know, normally it's, oh, you're from Michigan? Oh, we're in Michigan. Oh,
right,
things like that. And
yeah.
So, you know, it is definitely the melting pot community around here, which is a lot of fun, I feel.
It is.
And so, you know, tell me a little bit, you know, in technology, it's such a broad topic.
Right.
You know, technology is everything from phones to your website. So can you talk to me a little more details of like what type of tech solutions do you help people with?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I've been thinking about that a lot too. And just saying I'm a technology matchmaker leaves it really open. So
Yes.
thanks for the clarifying question. So the kinds of technology, the company started in the internet and actually landline phone space for businesses, and then has branched out into business phone systems of all types, whether that's cell phone or voice over IP.
Because who's a landline these days?
Right, right. Any kind of communications needs. We still do internet accounts. And believe it or not, there are not just one or two options in most of the country anymore. We typically can source 4 or 5 options for people that are either moving into a new location or there's internet service for their business just isn't keeping up, or they're planning on growing and they need to expand their digital space that way. And then we also help with IT support. So the tech companies that come in and work with your hardware and getting all your cloud together and networks and servers. Not too many people doing that with cloud anymore, but we can if people need to. And then also software. We vet different CRMs for companies and help them figure out which is the best for them, and have partners with about 4 right now that we're really dialed into. And then, of course, we can help them vet if they come to us and say, well, how does this compare to this? And it's not one of our partners, we can still help them sort that out.
So you're like a fiduciary in the world of technology, it sounds like.
Yeah. Some people call us brokers or resellers. I use matchmaker because of my connectivity. And for me, it's all about the people.
It sounds more lovely, a matchmaker versus a broker, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, it makes sense.
And then in addition, so those were kind of the core business of TCO. The leader of the company and the founder have been in the tech industry 20 years. And work with complex organizations, larger companies. And with my small business background, I wanted to focus on small business. And what I discovered is that as I'm talking with small business owners, there are other areas of technology that aren't in the core of what we do, but they still need support in. So I've also developed groups of partners in AI support in all different kinds of ways, app development. And then people do come and ask us who's a good videographer or who's helps with digital marketing. So I've built out referral partners in those areas. And then more recently, I also was introduced to a totally different technology of streaming TV. So I'm actually representing the streaming TV. So people that want to take the content that they've already produced and put it up on the on Roku or Fire TV, then they have an avenue for that too.
And I love your name that you came up with for that part of your business, Blooming Voices.
Yes.
So tell me, I'm sure people could probably guess, but tell me the inspiration for that name.
Yeah, part of it is that even though I'm not working as a florist, I love plants and flowers. So I have a very robust yard and garden, and zinnias are one of my favorites, and they were one of my grandmother's favorites, and they're easy to grow here. So I was having a conversation with a woman who really helps people have insights about what their differentiator is. And she said, you know, let's marry your gardening and your love of flowers with your technology. And so, so she was the one that helped me with that. So it's really about pulling those two pieces of me back together into one place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And blooming voices, the idea of blooming, finally opening up, coming out into the world. Like there's just so much to that name that, you visually can see and understand right away. So I really love it.
And it makes me think I should probably have an AI tool create an avatar that's a zinnia that comes blooming out of the ground.
Oh, very nice. Yes, that'd be wonderful. Yeah. And so tell me, what are some common technological pitfalls or areas that business owners aren't really thinking as much about that they should be?
Yeah. One that's really common that brings people to me, or at least as I'm talking about it, people will raise their hand and say, oh yeah, maybe we need to talk, is in our communications, most of us use cell phones, use our personal cell phone number for our businesses. And there's some options to help with that are very cost effective, that bring enterprise level tools at a small business price. And the issues that people have, one is they want some work-life separation. They want some between their work and their personal. I mean, work is part of life, so work, personal. And they don't want to carry two cell phones.
Right.
Or they have a larger team, and because they started with one cell phone, they've just added cell phones because they didn't know that they could do anything different. And they can't transfer calls. Whoever has the main number cell phone that's on the website has to answer it no matter what else is going on, or they have to hard forward it to another number where there's no indication of, is this a work call? What is the, you can't tell.
Yeah.
And then the other issue in this day and age is client data security, both for the client's sake. When you have your client data on a personal cell phone, there could be compromises. And especially if a business is asking their team members to use their personal number, like say a tech is out in the field in pest control and he's texting a client saying, I'm on the way. Well, he has that client's data in his cell phone. If he leaves the company, he has the client's data with him. So it doesn't secure the business either. So in pulling all those numbers, pulling that into a business phone system that the business owns, the team member or the owner can have an app on their phone that's not like Google Voice where it taps into your cell phone, but it's a totally separate thing, separate ring. And if a team member leaves, all you do is you remove access to that app and you still have all your client data. They can't contact the client and say, I'm starting my own business. Why don't you come here? And a lot of people are a lot more squeamish about what's happening with their information.
Definitely. Okay, that's a really good tip. That's a really good, piece of information there. Yeah. What would you say is one of your most favorite tech tools?
Boy, that's a good one. I'd have to say CRMs because they have become so powerful, and there are really good solutions for small businesses that bring powerful tools. You don't have to go to a Salesforce and spend thousands of dollars to have automations and integrations and be able to utilize your software to support you and also make it easier to follow through with your clients, to have that appreciation made more consistent so that people know that you care about them and you're not just calling them to say, hey, do you need any more widgets or whatever? And then speaking of client appreciation, my kind of a offshoot of the CRM is a client appreciation software called Send Out Cards.
Oh, yes.
You're probably familiar. I used it when I was a florist, and about a year ago, I realized, this is software. It fits in our family. I need to help people with this and make it available. because so many people say, I want to do more client appreciation, but I just don't have the time or the resources. And they don't just want to rely on something that's like the same for everyone. They want to personalize it. And so I enjoy that too.
Very cool. Yeah. I know I recently, we've been in business since July of 2014, but it's only been the last few years that we've really been using a CRM system. And it's a game changer. It really is. Just the automation aspects, the, just the ability to tag people correctly, to really segment your contacts and your clients. It's important to be able to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. To be able to have groups and say, okay, for a business maybe that has a lot of leads coming in from online, maybe they want to send an advertising out specially to the people that came to them through Yelp and reference that. Well, if your system is set up appropriately, it's easy as a click of a button, put an email together and send it on.
Right.
Instead of having to go dig and then put them in a spreadsheet and then try to get them into an email program. And
And so if someone was, obviously hearing this and going, okay, I definitely need some tech help, what does the program look like? What does it really look like? Is it a phone call with you and a strategy session? And then, we pay you $1 million and then you give us, what is basically the process like?
Yeah, the process is I typically set up a virtual meeting because especially if we're talking about their systems or CRM, we may do some screen sharing and that's helpful to capture or record it. So I do a discovery session where I'm asking them all kinds of questions. And usually it's one topic that brings them, the phones, or I've got tons of software that aren't talking together. I need them integrated, or they're moving and they need a new internet account or whatever.
Or potentially if someone was just starting and seeing this and trying to, get all their ducks in a row, could they talk to you in the beginning before they're in a technological frustration storm?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Let's get the chaos solved before it gets too much.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do a discovery session. And I typically will ask about all the different areas that we work in, just to raise, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? To see, are there other ways we can support them as well? And it's not necessarily that we do all the things all at once, because that's a little overwhelming. So then if there are multiple things, they'll tell us this is our priority first, then we'll want to work on that, then that. Sometimes you can work on things concurrently because it's the partners we bring in who are doing the work and it's not them doing it. But so what I do is I take that information and then I have a process of working through our partners that we have and vendors and saying, okay, these are the most important things for them. How does that match up with these, for example, CRMs? And which one do I think one or ones would be a good fit? If I need to, I'll also go to the partner and say, I have this potential client. Here's what I know. Do you have any other questions you'd need to know if it's a good fit, or is it a good fit? Because the last thing that I want to do is introduce them and within 5 minutes or half an hour into the conversation realize, ooh, this isn't a good fit at all.
Yeah.
So my goal is to make sure that they have vetted solutions that they know are going to be an option for them. So when they're choosing between the solutions, they know they're all good options. It's just which one is going to work better, or do they prefer, et cetera. So and then they work with the partner or vendor directly.
Okay.
And then the partner or vendor pays me a commission for that.
Right.
And I like that because there's no cost to the client for our service.
Yeah.
And it means that I'm vendor neutral.
Yeah.
Because no matter what they sign up for, I'm going to get paid. So
it definitely is making it a no risk to the business owner who might go, it's similar to when you think of, I really need legal advice, but I'm afraid to pick up the call, the phone, because I'm not trying to get charged the second I ask a question. A lot of times we, get a little nervous as a business owner, especially, early on when you're, on a shoestring budget of, can I pick up the phone and call and ask the question?
Right.
Well, this is a situation where, yes, you can truly have an ally and a partner in the technological space, since you're paid, after the fact. And the fact that you don't have, here is our menu items of what to choose from, and being, agnostic to the other technological options, it is more of that fiduciary role where you're really looking out for that business owner.
Right.
Right. And, you might have, business owner A work perfectly for this CRM for what they're doing.
Right.
But then business owner B, you could then suggest a different one because maybe they have different needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
exactly.
excellent.
Exactly.
And so, since you have been a business owner and you've
Mm-hmm.
even transitioned into different industries, what would be one suggestion you would have to a fellow business owner who's perhaps in that first, 1 to 3 year marker point?
I think part of it is being real clear about your systems, and the temptation is there is so much coming at us from ads, online or in social media or whatever. Use this tool, use this tool, use this tool. And business owners end up with a stack of 15 tools, maybe 2/3 of which they're not even really using and they're putting out money for. And then the ones that they have, maybe they're not utilizing
to the
fullest. And so I think when a business owner is really clear about this is our marketing strategy, this is our business strategy, then asking when you're bringing in a new tool, how does it help me with these strategies? And to step away from I'm just going to throw things up on the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Because that's where the chaos comes from, honestly. And then I think the other piece in working with a CRM is having the awareness that these other tools can integrate with that CRM and making that happen so that they're not manually duplicating data entry. Even the voice over IP, the phone system I was talking about, that can even integrate into a CRM where the client's phone number can show up and their text messages can show up in that account so that they don't have to copy and paste and do that extra work.
Yeah, it's all about how can we just work smarter, not harder. That common phrase that I feel like we've all heard so much, work smarter, not harder. But I feel like we are in a day and age where there is, so many technological options that truly allow us to do it if you have it set up correctly and implemented correctly.
Yes. And I have implementers and integrators that will do that for businesses, come alongside them, either do it for them or teach them principles and so that they can do it for themselves. And then the other piece is with AI, because it's a reality in our world, is I have some great resources for businesses that are advanced and want an AI partner that's very advanced. I also have resources for small business owners who are just dipping their toe in or haven't quite yet, or have dabbled but don't really understand what can happen, including an AI community called AI in Wonderland that people can join, ask questions. She has great tools in there. So partners for all kinds.
Do you have a favorite AI platform that you like to use so far?
Right now I've been dabbling in this area. I was not quick to want to pay. I heard of people that are like, okay, I'm paying $150 because I'm paying 10 here, 20 here, 50 here, and it adds up quickly.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't want to do that to myself. So I'm going to do some research. I joined AI in Wonderland myself. And I recently started paying for Perplexity.
Okay.
And am really happy with that. My brain is creative enough that I'm starting to come up with ideas that I'm bumping up against its edges. So I'm going to need to find out, do I need to go to the next level of payment to do those things? But so that's overall is the one I've been using.
And I feel like similar to, I'm sure you know a lot more about the various AI platforms than even I do, but I'm sure just like most tools, there is a reason that one's stronger than the other.
Right.
I feel that like I love Claude for writing.
Yes.
I feel like I can work with it as a partner to finalize, to change the tone of things and such like that in such a way that I can't so much with other platforms. And so I'm sure you've been finding that too, that, certain AI platforms react better for a certain task. Do you need to create an Excel spreadsheet or do you need to create, a creative blog? Do you need to create an image or do you need to, like I said, come up with a social media post or something?
Right. And some of it's a little bit personality. The reason I work with Perplexity is that it tends to ask me follow-up questions, which I really appreciate. Here's an example. I had a spreadsheet where I needed to do something with 2 columns out of like 50.
Yeah.
And so I put it in and said, please go find these 2 columns and remove everything else.
I love that you say please still. I say please too. I'm just saying. I say please all the time too. Let's be polite even to the tech.
Right. Well, I have heard that the way they've been programmed, that when you're nice to it, it does treat you better.
I've heard that too. I hope it's just also just humanity saying we need to get ahead of this before we make a bunch of rude people.
That's right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. So I had put it into a different LLM and it gave me 1 column. And I'm like, no, I want 2 columns. And it just gave me back 1 column. Well, then I said, okay, let me try Perplexity. And I put it in and it said, I'm not finding the 2nd column. And I went, what? And when I exported out of the CRM, for some reason, that column didn't export with everything else. But the first one would not tell me that. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, you're a winner.
Yeah, definitely. That more of that partnership and feeling more like a tool, it sounds like. Than, sometimes I think right now with this world of AI, people are just kind of giving in. And how I mentioned I like Claude for writing. There's only certain times where I'll go to it. It's only when I feel stumped, but I'm always going to try myself first.
Yes.
And then I'll say like, what do you think of this passage? And see what they say about it and use it more like an editor and, a feedback person than an actual starting tool.
Right. Well, and the other piece, and this is something that's come to me recently, is people are talking about AI clones and doing amazing things like replicating themselves and to do things and then get it back to them. It's worth it to have at least one that is in the area that you do most of your work in, that's strong in that area, and teach it about you. And so I started putting in like all the different marketing phrases or some LinkedIn posts that I'd done introducing myself, the content of that. I asked it, what do I call this? And they said, well, why don't you call it your marketing branding kit? And so now that it has all of these pieces, this morning I needed a paragraph that was more than my tagline, but much shorter than my paragraph. I needed like 2 sentences. And so I said, go to my marketing branding kit and give me 2 sentences about what I do that relates to this audience. And it did. Nice. So it was my work in there, but it was taking it and reformatting it.
Yeah.
And much shorter and with much less brain pain than I would have done myself. So
lovely. Yeah. And a lot less time too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, technology and, AI, it's such a buzzword. And when you were talking about like how to choose, which tool to use, how you should always keep in mind, like, is it going to help reach your goal? It kind of reminds me of a book I'm currently reading, Smart Rev, where they talk about always have like your North Star.
Right.
So when you're looking to hire, when you're looking to make any kind of business decision, like, is it going to be aligned with your North Star, your ultimate business goal? And so are there other books like that really stick to you that you kind of think about or that's maybe helped you in your, business or career journey?
Yeah. I've been listening more than reading and
it still counts.
Yeah. But before I answer that, when you mentioned North Star, the thing that reminded me of when I was a florist is I worked with a specialist who helps businesses discover their team values. And she used the word North Star, a little different definition, but it was also very helpful, of what are your core values that you, in terms of how you align with yourself and the world, how you align with your clients, how you serve them, and then what is your foundational principles for your team. And that compass was so helpful with your mission statement in the middle. That was so helpful for me, and I still carry part of that with me today. I think for me, like for someone who's wanting to learn about AI, there are quite a few people doing summits or introductory webinars and things like that. And I would say watch 2 or 3 so that you're getting different perspectives, and then find the ones that align most with the kind of work you want to get done and which tools, and then B, which fit your personality. Some people want the tools that are going to ask them clarifying questions. For other people, that is so annoying, and they just want to tell it what to do and get the answer out. So yeah.
But also, hopefully, it's the right answer. That is another
you do
thing
have to verify.
Yes.
You do have to verify. Yeah, don't just take 3 pages and not read it and hand it to a client. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no. Or, you could do what I did recently. I had to help a client write a blog on a topic I know next to nothing about. And I just kind of fed it some information that I found from their website and was like, please read this for accuracy. I used AI. I don't know your industry well enough yet. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
Please confirm if this is correct.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's okay for us to be honest like that. And saying like, look, I'm using this tool, let's make sure we're correct with what's being said here.
Exactly.
Because he even asked us, like, where'd you get these numbers from? I'm like, I copied and pasted a bunch of stuff from your website.
Right.
Said, let's make it a blog.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think the other inspiration for me is people that are writing and talking about the humanity and how important it is. There was one speaker recently, he was talking about the right brain, left brain, and how AI is like your right brain.
That's the
complex analytics, task.
Logic,
The left brain, the relational, people, emotional, creative piece, we still have to own that.
Right, because it's not going to come up with things that magically.
Right.
It always needs the input of the original creators.
Right.
To then say, this is our vision. Make it happen.
It can take an idea and iterate. There has to be a starting point that we provide it. And also that perspective is a safeguard against some of the dangers that especially teenagers are running into where they're trying to have AI friends because it's easier than a real person. And, there's that whole danger too. But
yeah, definitely lots of situations there with mental health I could feel.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too that I think we all have to remember. So I grew up with my dad being really big in IBM. So I grew up with computers all my life. Yeah. And it was always a scenario where if I got upset about a software or something, he's like, remember, this was built by a person.
Right.
So it's like you can't just think everything's gonna be fail-proof, the perfect. Same thing with the like we have to remember at the end of the day, it was developed from a person. Right. And we are not, fail-proof. We all have our flaws and problems. And so it's something else I think we have to keep in mind is that sometimes we put technology and softwares at such a high pedestal. And it's like, wait, pull behind the curtain.
That's right. That's right.
There's still a person behind it all.
Yes. Well, and even the large language models, the main ones everybody knows, as they were programmed with biases about certain things. And so if there's a value that's really important to you, test out the AI by giving it a task that's related to your value and see how it responds. And if it doesn't align with your values, you probably don't want it working on your marketing.
That is a really great tip. Everyone should write down that tip. That's a good one. No, truthfully, because they do think a little differently and respond slightly differently because, again, they are developed by people.
Right. With worldviews and with assumptions about what's valuable and important and
Yeah, that's a really good test. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I had mentioned Smart Rev. What are some tales or some books that, have really stuck out to you in your life?
Yeah, I think one is, I love Ivan Meisner. He's the founder of BNI, and I have been involved with BNI for years. And he has quite a few books on networking that I've read over the years, and just really hits home how important relationships are, and also referral partners in business, that it's not just about going out and finding individual clients. It's about finding who can you send business to, who can send business to you. And those relationships can be golden. So I really love the fact that he's very prolific in communicating about that.
Yeah, definitely an old reference I'm going to make a comment to, but having a Rolodex of people you can call upon is so important, because likewise, I just want to be seen as a resource.
Yes.
Even if you don't know video or you don't need video, if you need someone to help you with your phone lines, I want to be looked at someone whom, you can call, and then I can say, hey, call this person, talk to this person. Yeah, it's so important to have a network, not just for when you need a resource, but when someone else needs a resource.
Right. And the other thing I've discovered is for people that have businesses where it's sporadic that people need them, or it's not a continuous thing, we can go one of two ways. We can say, okay, I'm going to reach out maybe once a year, because they don't need it very often, When you have a referral partner or a partner that has a resource that's so helpful, when you reach out of serving and say, I thought I was talking to this person, they have this great resource, and I thought of you for some reason. Would this be helpful? It puts you in front of them without making the, do you need my services call?
Yeah.
Because we don't like making those kind of calls, and I find it happens, as I, even this week emailed out and invited people to send a holiday card on me. There were a few people that responded back and said, hey, by the way, I think I have a client for you. And so in a totally different area, because it just keeps you top of mind.
Exactly. That's the whole point of, not the whole point, but one major goal of networking is to remind people we're all so busy. And I feel especially in this day and age with media all over the place, my phone yelling at me, I feel half the time about this notification, that notification, you eventually forget. It's unless you're constantly, reminded of the value you can provide to people, what it is you even do. When some people see you in a certain space, they think that's just your only lane. I know, I fall into that sometimes, in that we're hired a lot to do event photography.
Right.
And so people go, oh, you're a photographer. And it's like, well, yeah, we do photography, but that's actually not even our main our main thing. We do video, we're about the multi-frames, not just the singular frame. But unless you, softly remind people or are networking, people forget and will just kind of make their own assumption of like, well, this is the lane I see you in. And so that's all I think about.
Right. Yeah. Very good point.
So networking can be super powerful. Do you network regularly still with BNI?
I did. I joined a new chapter in this role, and and actually I use the national and even international BNI network sometimes to find partners if I have gaps, or people will reach out. And actually, that was through BNI that I got connected with the streaming TV network. So you never know.
You never know who you meet. Yes, that's so true. I personally have not done BNI, the once a week commitment and things like that. I just have little issues with myself, just in my current state of my business.
Sure.
I know when I was first starting my business, I had a lot more time. And so I definitely was doing the BNI, and I was in a part of other, regular weekly groups. Right now, I'm more focused with NABO.
That's a great.
Come sometime. It's been a while, I feel.
It has been a while.
Yeah. So National Association of Women Business Owners. I know lots of us have tech issues that I'm sure we could get some assistance on.
We'll have to connect about that.
And so we heard about a book that you love. Now, if you were to write a book, what would be the title of that tale?
That's a good question. Well, one, on a personal note, I have a dream of taking my great-grandmother's writings from the late 1800s, her journal, and publishing that.
Let's do it.
Yes. And then before COVID, started to write a book about how to pick a networking chapter, because in my previous business, I was in 6 different groups and had thought through a lot. And I started getting a lot of people asking me, I'm just getting started in networking. Where should I start? So I thought maybe I should write something.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened and all of that. And I just realized
networking
recently,
changed. It all went virtual. No.
Well, it went all virtual immediately, but now a lot of the in-person is back. So
yes, people are hungry for in-person now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still virtual and national networking and all that. So if I pick that up, I've got to put it back in. But
yeah, I think that's a fabulous book. I think that's such, I know Tish Time, she has Networking's Not a One Night Stand.
Oh,
and so
yes,
she has a book
right.
that kind of talks about the continuation, okay,
Right.
you went to an event, now what do we do about
Yes.
it? But the choosing can be so difficult sometimes for people, especially when you're new in business and that's a muscle you're not used to flexing.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
and especially when there are so many different options, it's easy to go into one and be there for a while because you like the people and then realize this isn't the best fit for my business. And then it's hard to extract yourself relationally and move, or you add another one and then you're overwhelmed. And so,
right. And then you have no time to actually do business.
Right. Right.
And that I think I think you should lean with that and keep going with that. Cause I can imagine myself, 11 years ago, first starting, I felt like I was that way. I was doing the BNI, I was doing Centersphere, I was doing all the different things, just trying to get in front of people.
Yeah.
But then, eventually you somewhat sit back and go, this is a social club. This is, for some of them,
Right.
but not others. And so, yeah, it's identifying, is that your group of people, because there's so many different types of groups with different focuses. Like I know for NABO, it's, women business owners. We love our men allies. So men out there, you're still welcome, but it is, supposed to help, empower women to, grow in their businesses and their roles and so forth. So yeah. That is excellent. Now, possibly my most important question of the day. What is your favorite animal with a tail? I like to get a little punny sometimes.
Yes. Well, I've been a dog person all my life, and we have a little dog, Shadow. So he's my favorite
team
person.
Dog. Sorry, I'm team cat. So, but I do like
my
dogs.
sister is team cat for sure. But cats are fun too. I just we had dogs all growing up, and it's where my husband's comfort level was as well.
Yeah.
We have geckos in our backyard, so those are kind of fun.
That's true. We do here. I know. I do love just going to different states and just seeing the different wild animals that there are. I know going to Michigan, my son was like, "Oh my gosh, a squirrel, a squirrel!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a squirrel," because I grew up with squirrels all the time, and now I'm still like, "Oh, look at that lizard! Look at the lizard!" I feel like the kids are like, "Yeah, it's just another lizard."
Yes. Yes.
So funny. And so, as we're kind of coming to a close here, how should people and when should people get a hold of you?
Really, anytime there's a question, frustration, when you're going to make an investment for a business in any of these areas we've talked about, if anything's sparked, come just chat with me. We can start with a 10 or 15-minute phone call and just explore, does it make sense to do a full discovery? We don't, have to jump into that right away. I think the other time for people to reach out, a couple of other triggers are, in addition to setting up a new physical location, adding team members is a great time, especially adding virtual team members for the first time, because we can make sure that your infrastructure is set up so the virtual assistant or virtual team member can access everything they need, can help in the ways you want to help. So that's another trigger as well. And how people can reach out, find me on the TCO Technology website. Also, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm pretty active there, so I respond to messages. And I have a digital business card that wherever this is put, we can put that in there and people can click on it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have that all in the show notes then. So make sure you scroll down to the bottom where you have all the links. We'll have, perhaps you can give us a link then to even schedule that quick 15-minute strategy session just to learn more, because it doesn't hurt to ask questions, especially if it's going to be for free. So ask those questions, get those answers, and just be able to make knowledgeable decisions. And so what would be the one tip, one thing that you're going to tell people to do after they're done watching this episode? What would be one thing, whether it has to do with tech or just business in general, since you've, been in business for yourself for quite some time? What would be the one tip you would give to our fellow entrepreneurs?
I think the one tip would be to take time out. We have relationships with a bookkeeper, CPA, where we take that financial look. Mm-hmm. Our insurance agent or broker helps us, make sure we're covered. Mm-hmm. We do our annual physical checkup. Yeah. We really need a tech checkup to just step back and say, what software am I paying for? What systems am I using? What's working for me? What's not working? Where are the frustrations? And just, at least once or twice a year to take a step back and do that, could help you save money, could also help you save creating more chaos for yourself. And could help you identify areas where you can get more efficient and effective and enjoy, instead of, how all of us, including me in the tech world, it's like, with this or that tech situation or software situation. So, yeah.
Yeah. And know that gremlins are real. I
think.
When things happen, sometimes gremlins are real, in my opinion.
Yes.
But yes, I love that. So do your tech checks. If you have not had a tech check yet in the last 6 months, it sounds like it's about time. So thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. And
thank you for having me.
We'll have to have a deeper tech check ourselves.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you again, and have a good one. Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.